more about the vineyard that you selected or that you've worked with? You mentioned you've worked with it since 2005.
That's correct. Yeah, this was a vineyard that was originally planted by Bill Smith. I don't know if you're familiar with W.H. Smith Wines in Lahota. Bill's an excellent guy, and so he initially planted the vineyard, and Deodato owns the vineyard now, and so Brian Malk is buying fruit from there. But it's a hillside, it's an elevation vineyard, so it's up above the fog line, second ridge in from the coast. So you have the maritime influence, you have cool daytime temperatures, but you have full sun exposure, which is a great combination to have for Pinot Noir. So you get ripeness, you get, that's where all that great fruit comes from, but you're not overheating the vineyard because it has the cooling effect from the coast itself. You can see the ocean from the vineyard. The Sonoma Coast appellation is such a bad misnomer because it's just such a giant appellation, and half of the appellation is in the Russian River. This is why I say the true Sonoma Coast, you see the ocean from the vineyard.
What's the temperature swing day to night?
Obviously it depends dramatically on the time of year. So, if we went in, say, July, which is kind of the heart of the growing season, you'll get into the 80s, the low 80s. Like if there's a heat spike inland over in Calistoga when it's 106, you might get up into the 80s at this vineyard. But at nighttime, it cools down quite cold, well into the 40s. And at harvest times, sometimes when we bring the fruit in, you're sorting fruit, and it's very cold on your hands. It'll freeze your hands up. So we'll put that into tank, and a lot of times the cold soak, we don't even really have to cool it with, refrigeration. It stays cold if you harvest it very cold. So, so it could be up to answer your question, a solid 40-degree swing from night to day.
And Robbie, how do you think the wine will age?
Very well. Yeah, no question. I think with my processing of Pinot Noir, I've had good luck with aging. Again, being gentle, even during fermentation practices, etc. My goal is really preserving the fruit quality, but in being gentle with it, with not racking it in the winery, with being very cautious with the wine, that also keeps the oxidation down very low. So the ageability is quite good. And you see from the structure that it has plenty of structure for Pinot Noir. It's enjoyable right away, but I've made Pinot Noirs for myself and for other brands, and 10 years is nothing. It's easy, 10 years, and 15 to 20 if you want to keep it that long.
Okay. Any other questions on this particular wine? All right, Robbie, could you talk just Malk in general? Can I ask? I have some questions about the cab.
Yeah.
Is it all gone back to Brian's vineyard now? Or
the Cabernet.
Yes.
The Cabernet, his vineyard is in full production.
Okay.
And I loved his vineyard from the beginning. I'd worked with that since 2003 or 2002 is actually, I think, when I started. 2003 was the first release. But so it was a great vineyard. It had some oak root fungus, and it was just getting old and whatever. So it was time to pull it out. We pulled it out. We got fruit, literally same ridge position, just slightly further south down at Ragusi.
Right.
And I was less than happy with it to begin with. I like the fruit from Brian's vineyard itself much better. And then over working with the Ragusi fruit for several years, we did some pretty nice things with it, and we've improved it, I think, dramatically. And so as of the 2014 vintage, I had both still. I had Brian's fruit as well as from Ragusi. So the 2014, most likely when I go to bottle, will be a blend of those two. Okay. But you know, there is some thought of, do we do kind of a reserve that's just from Brian's property, and then, you know, still a Napa cab. But to keep it simple, I'd like to have just one cab, and if I can continue to get the Ragusi block to perform well, I don't have a problem with that at all. They actually do the physical farming at Brian's Vineyard, so we're in a pretty close partnership there.
Gotcha. Okay. Excellent. Yes.
I have a question. If you're sourcing fruit from another spot, is it a no-no for you to quote unquote suggest anything, or I mean, is that taboo, or can you say?
Oh God, no. It's the only way that I'll purchase fruit from someone. You pay a lot more for that type of relationship, but I definitely want to mandate the farming. In other situations, you know, sometimes it's more of a challenge. In this particular case, because, you know, so Ragusi, you know, they have their winery, I'm sure you're familiar with it, and their brand, but they also have a vineyard management company. And from Jimmy Ragusi himself to, you know, the vineyard manager and foreman and viticulturalist, I work very closely with those guys. Like I said, they were the ones who physically pulled out Brian's old vineyard and did all the soil work and replanted the new one. So we have a good relationship. Actually, I'm not sure if they sell fruit to anyone else any longer, but because we get along quite nicely, and they know what my goals are in the vineyard are just to achieve something great. So they charge us plenty, but they let me mandate what I'd like to see in the vineyard.
Got it. Thank you.
Could you just compare 2012 versus 2013 in general in Napa, Sonoma?
Yes, sure. 12 is a good vintage, but I don't think it'll go down as a great vintage. It looks amazing when compared to 2011. I think I'm going on my 19th vintage, and 2011 was, without question, the most difficult and challenging vintage that we had to work with. From the early season and rains and then frosts and then heat spikes and then rain at the end of the season. It was very, very difficult. We still made some great wines, but it was very expensive. It meant making many, many extra passes through the vineyard. It meant dropping extra fruit on the ground. It meant sorting fruit out. It meant all these difficult things. And so we made some good wines, no doubt. But then when you have 2012 following that, 2012 seems absolutely perfect because of everything you went through in 2011. And many winemakers, I think, thought that 12 was great until you have the 13. And then you realize that 13 really is a special vintage. 12 is just a good California vintage. So 2013 was, 2012, we were so impressed at how early, quote unquote, early it was. And usually early ripening vintages are better vintages. But 2013 was even earlier than that. So, and no problems in 13. Very, very steady growing conditions. So not a lot of heat spikes. Weather was good. There was no rain. There was, sometimes you have cool periods in the middle of the growing season that stalls things out. So 13 was just very, very even the whole way through.
So could we say that 12 was possibly a little bit more showier, and 13 is going to be more structured, more ageable, more?
No, I think that 13 is just everything 12 is, but more. So if 12 has good fruit,
right,
13 has more fruit. If 12 has good weight, 13 has more weight. If 12 has good structure, 13 has more structure. So it's just all of those things.
And the Malk Sauvignon Blanc, is that just going to kind of continue the way it is? We love the wine. We do very, very well with it.
Yeah, it'll continue. That's, we source that fruit from the Oak Knoll district, and that's another example of farming that I work very closely with the grower. Jim Verhey is the owner. He's a longtime Napa Valley farmer, and we really get to do some great viticultural work there. Sauvignon Blanc a lot of people, either they just don't care, or the fruit is inexpensive and they don't have the farming budget to do it right. But with every varietal that we work with, when we do canopy management, our strategy is to have enough sunlight that penetrates the canopy that touches some portion of the cluster at some point during the day. Never do we want any one cluster to see full sunlight all day long, and never do we want to see a cluster buried into the canopy where it gets no sunlight, and we certainly don't want it to be halfway in and halfway out, if you get my point.
Right.
Sunlight in moderate doses is extremely important, and it costs money to do that. You're basically like manicuring rose bushes. It's all handwork to go in and to remove leaves and shoots and position fruit. So a lot of times with Sauvignon Blanc, that is not done. You just let the fruit grow and let the vine grow, and when it's time to pick, you pick, and what you get, you get. And I don't believe in that philosophy at all. And just like with all of my other varietals, I want the Sauvignon Blanc to have evenness of ripeness from berry to berry within the cluster, from cluster to cluster throughout the vine, and from vine to vine throughout the vineyard. And in doing that, I can easily get at least what I would perceive as perfect ripeness. My opinion of perfect ripeness might not be the same as someone else, but at least I know that it's consistent throughout the vineyard, and I'm not tasting some sunburned berries and some really, really green berries. It's very, very even. And I think what you'll notice and continue to see in the Malk Sauvignon Blanc is that we don't have green grassy aromas. We certainly don't have melon and overripe aromas. We have a nice balance of floral, citrus, and some fruit. We also maintain a minerality there. We'll maintain a varietal acidity. So Sauvignon Blanc should be acidic to a certain extent to be a great food wine. That doesn't mean it has to be bracing and unpleasant. So in order to balance the natural acidity, this is why we do barrel aging on that. It's all neutral oak. There's no new oak, and by neutral I mean I might have 10-year-old barrels in there. But it's all barrel fermentation, indigenous fermentation, aged on the lees about 8 months. And those attributes of barrel fermentation on the lees, the micro-oxygenation that takes place during fermentation and during the aging process, balances out the natural acidity. So it has acidity, but it has texture and presence on the palate as well.
Excellent. Guys, any general questions? You've got a rock star California winemaker in front of you. You could
Stump the jump.
He's done it all and he's seen it all. Do you have any other questions you might have in general?
Yeah, I do. Robbie, in general, how much more difficult is it to make wines compared with the Sauvignon Blanc and the Cabernet and the Pinot? How much more difficult is it to make each one of them?
You mean, is it difficult to make all the different varietals, or is one more difficult to make than the other?
Yeah. Which one? Is one more difficult than the other?
Yeah, certainly. There's no doubt that Pinot is the most difficult. It's just the most sensitive. Sauvignon Blanc, it's not that it's easy, and like what I was always describing there, people take it as being too easy. I see such a lack of attention to Sauvignon Blanc. But really, with Sauvignon Blanc, if you just pay attention to it and treat it well, you'll get really good results. It ripens early in the season. It's kind of like strong, like Cabernet. It can withstand fluctuations in temperature. Whereas Pinot Noir, it doesn't withstand stress very well. And unfortunately, where you want to put it and grow it is in stressful conditions. At the coast where it's windy and cloudy and cold, and people know that it's sensitive to sunlight, but it's sensitive to everything. But that's what makes it fun when you get it right. And so it's more challenging. Whereas Cabernet, it's great. It's more masculine. You can rough it up a little bit, hot temperatures and vigorous fermentations, and it just responds really well to that. Pinot Noir is like you have to watch your step every way along the process.
Anything else, fellas? Jimmy, anything there?
No, I'm good.
You good? Robbie, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
It's been really, really great. We love the wines. We're going to continue to support the wines, and it's great to hear what's going on out there.
Robbie, you got something
let us know when you come out to visit.
You got it. What's that, Jim?
Yeah, ask him when he's coming east again. I'd love to do
When
a
are you
tasting
coming
with
to Connecticut again, Robbie?
You know, I need to. I haven't been in a little while, and you know, that's the most difficult part of winemaking is selling it, of course, and getting out on the road and getting around the country. And you know, I will be there. I'll let you guys know ahead of time when I come. It's not going to be this summer, unfortunately, but I'll try to get there soon.
And then just one more thing. Is there anything kind of new that you're doing that we should be aware of?
Nothing really new right now. You know, we just continue on. You know, with the one question about producing different varietals and things like that. You know, if you look at my cellar, you'll pretty much see Sauv Blanc and Cab and Pinot and Chard. That's what I like to drink. That's what I continue to produce, and so you know that's what I continue to work on. So nothing new and crazy and innovative. Just trying to stick to what I can do best.
Robbie, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Robbie.
Thank you.
Take care.